What's up, everyone? How you guys doing?
So, man, obviously not the first time you've experienced the UFC Fight Week, so I guess, what's it like, been this time around, having to sit on the secret that you're fighting and everything like that?
This time, it's a lot easier. I feel like there's a lot more things that go into it. I'm enjoying the food and the nutrition and having the Performance Institute take care of everything. It's been awesome. I feel like I never left. Everybody's been saying I'm making my debut, but I don't know. Can you have two debuts, or how does that work?
Does it feel like a new debut for you, or does it just feel like a continuation from the first run?
You know what? It feels like a continuation from the first run, but it also feels like a new path of it. Like I get to, prove myself in a different way this time, and I'm excited to be back. And I feel like the biggest thing that I could take from this time compared to last time is I'm enjoying this a lot more. Like enjoying the media, I'm enjoying the whole photo shoot, the whole process. It's just I feel like it's a bigger deal, and it's just like more important. Like the little things are more important this time.
Did you not enjoy it the first time?
You know what? Like as growing up, was never a fan of like all the cameras and doing all the interviews and talking like that. So like I just feel like this time it's a little bit more comfortable. Just be yourself. I felt like when I was a 22-year-old, you got to be a certain way or you got to say certain things for people to like you. And now it's just like if people like you, they like you. If not, then fuck them.
For someone that doesn't like cameras and being in the house for so long, surrounded by all those, what was that experience like?
The house was great. It was funny because like I got home and you kind of get used to the cameras and like seeing everything, or you start having a conversation and a camera would pop up in your face. And so like when I got home and I was having conversations, you could look. I'm like making sure like there's not people around me, and but it was cool. It was a good experience.
And, looking at your resume, you might not have been as active on the resume, but fighting all that time in the Ultimate Fighter, it's like every few weeks you got to fight. So I guess what was the time away from the UFC like, just as competing not as often, but then going into the Ultimate Fighter?
I feel like the second fight was a little bit harder than the first fight. You kind of go in and you have all this like adrenaline, and you dump it the first fight, and then the second fight you're kind of just like, oh well, I guess I gotta fight again, and like it didn't feel like as exciting, and you kind of just have to still have that same mindset, like no, the second fight is still just as important as the first fight, and just make sure you're continuing the same steps, and I was able to come out victorious, and I was excited.
Did you feel any added pressure in there, being the former UFC fighter in the Ultimate Fighter?
I was doing an interview earlier, and somebody asked me. They asked me that same question, and I didn't. I felt like I was a dark horse because I took that layoff after the 3 fights, and there's all these active guys, and Eduardo Chapolin was one of the top favorites to win the show. Alibi is an undefeated prospect, and I fought Imanel, and Imanel's 5-0 with all finishes. So like you got all these guys that were coming in with all this hype, and then there was me that was coming off a layoff. So I feel like I kind of rode in there as like the underdog and the dark horse, and nobody really got to see me going.
And just last one for me, usually when you get these young fighters, they come in, they have the UFC belt like in mind, and they want to get there as quickly as possible, and they see how fighters act, and that's how they want to do it. I'm not saying you did that the first time, but some fighters, they come back around and it's a totally different mindset going in because they know what to expect. Have you experienced that? And can you compare your approach and like your goals this time around compared to when you were first in the UFC?
Yeah, I feel like you want to be like this person or this character, like when you're when you see it from a young age. Like I grew up watching the fights, and so like when I got there I was like, oh well, I need to be this guy for this, and now it's just like there's no added pressure. Like I'm not putting as much pressure on myself. Obviously this is still as important, maybe even more, but just treating every fight like a big fight, and taking it serious the whole time, and yeah, I took like that year off, but I've been working my ass off, and my coaches, my team, my family, everybody can attest to that. Like I've stayed in this game, I've been coaching, I've been helping out, I've been training, and just I'm ready for this.
Back in back in 2018, in your first stint with the UFC, you suffered a loss to Figueiredo. Did you learn anything from that fight, and did that help you grow?
I learned a lot from that fight. that was the first time I had lost a fight in I don't know how long, like since high school wrestling. So to just be able to take that, I feel like the loss aged pretty well. I mean, he kind of went on to he had a good run, like he's still one of the top dogs in the fight game. So to just be able to take that and learn from that experience and learn like, hey, like there's different levels and you gotta reach each level before you go in and taking these big fights against those guys and just be ready for everybody. Like treat every UFC fight like that's a championship fight. Like that's what I'm going in here and doing.
What's your biggest growth since your first UFC stint around 2018?
I think just mentally, honestly, like the mental aspect of it, the spiritual aspect of it, and just having everything in tune. Like you can't have. I feel to me personally, like I feel like you can't have a good performance like if your outside life isn't doing good. Like if you're not making the right decisions, like just different things. And then just like treating everything like, hey, I when I got cut, like I had to tell myself like, what are you gonna do? Like who are you gonna be? And I just had to be, myself. I had to be a husband. I had to be a father, and now I got 2 kids, and I just want to show them like, hey, dude, like, even though you had a rough patch, like you can't give up on yourself.
Since showing that adversity, does that motivate you more now to do better and prove yourself to the world?
100%, 100%. Like I'm focused, and this is what I care about. I don't need to fight, but I want to. I want to achieve my goals. I want to achieve my dreams. Like I'm not giving up on this yet.
Just one quick one for me.
Yeah.
Having kids now, having a family, something to fight for, a purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
Has that changed? Looking back at your first run, has it changed your priorities completely, or have you just had to tweak things here and there?
I just had to tweak a little bit. Like just having that balance of like, yeah, like not prioritizing everything like super like crazy. Like when I have time to spend with my family, like be 100% involved. Like if I'm with my oldest son, like I'm with my oldest son, and trying to get him involved in my training too. Like even though maybe I'm busy training, like having him in the gym, teaching him like, hey, this is like what you need to do. Like not to just be a professional athlete, but to just be a healthy human being. Like you got to work out every day. You got to eat right. You got to, stay busy and do good things like for yourself. Yeah. That's it. All right, cool. Thank you guys.